a resource guide that was designed by the organization's International Social Justice Commission is reportedly asking white donors to offer a sincere apology for their racism.
The Salvation Army recently released a statement defending its internal racism guide, Let's Talk About Racism, put out in April. In the guide, the organization discourages colorblindness and encourages staff members to apologize for being white.
The last thing I heard was the band music, and then I heard the vehicle, almost the engine revving, speeding up, speeding along the route, and then just heard a loud bang. And screams and cries, people in pain, fear, and agony.
When this red SUV raced down the parade route, police say the man behind the wheel had been released from jail less than a week ago in a domestic violence case. Darrell Edward Brooks Jr. was free on a $1,000 cash bail that prosecutors now say they are reviewing because it was inappropriately low.
Welcome back to the channel. This is Anna's Thoughts and Musical Parodies, and I am Anna, your hostess. Thank you so much for being here today. As a reminder, I've got some fun new merch available in the merch store, which will be on the second page of the website. That is always linked in the description. And I know that we're all going through the negative effects of inflation, so you will be happy to know that I lowered the prices down from what was suggested to what I thought was a little more fair. And you also have the option of paying in 4 easy installments with Afterpay. Thank you so much for anyone who decides to support in that way, and now let's get on with the video. So until quite recently, the Salvation Army had this resource guide listed on their website, Let's Talk About Racism, with the subtitle, A Resource Developed to Guide the Salvation Army Family in Gracious Discussions About Overcoming the Damage Racism Has Inflicted Upon Our World. And here are a few key points that I got out of that little document for you. What is race? Race is a social construct. Race is not biological, it is a social construct. There is no gene or cluster of genes common to all blacks or all whites. Unlike race, racial identity can be fluid. Shifts in racial identity can end in categories that our society, which insists on the rigidity of race, has not even yet defined. The reason sociologists say race is a social construction is because what it means to be white, black, Latin, Asian, and so on is defined according to culture, time, and place. The meanings of these categories have changed over time. What has not changed is that racial groups are placed into a hierarchy, with white or lighter-skinned people at the top. I always find this really weird when these kind of groups try to say that race is not biological because, I mean, clearly there are very obvious physical differences between people of different national origin or whatever you want to call it. You know, people who come from different regions of the world, they look different, not just in their skin color, but in their body structure, sometimes their height. And there are illnesses that tend to be more common in people of different, you know, in these different categories. So that's something that's important to be aware of and important to recognize that there are some biological differences so that you know how to help these people medically. So yeah, it's just kind of weird to me when they say it's not scientific, but if anybody sees something that I'm obviously missing, please let me know in the comments. And here is some more kind of strange stuff from this resource. Here are a few examples of lament that can be read out loud or in silence to express godly sorrow for groups that have been historically marginalized. Read Psalm 79. Now read it a second time as being spoken not from the perspective of our dominant white culture, but from the voice, perspective, and experience of the African American community. Anti-racist, fighting against racism. Being anti-racist results from a conscious decision to make frequent, consistent, equitable choices daily. These choices require ongoing self-awareness and self-reflection as we move through life. In the absence of making anti-racist choices, we unconsciously uphold aspects of white supremacy, white dominant culture, and unequal institutions in society. Being racist or anti-racist is not about who you are, it is about what you do. Do you really believe that they don't believe that it's who you are that makes you racist, but what you do? Because they are saying that white supremacy is like where it all ends up when you are not anti-racist. So that seems a little contradictory to me. What do you think? Here is how some people on Twitter responded to all of this stuff. If you donate to St. Jude, you don't have to apologize for being white like the Salvation Army. The fact that the Salvation Army has an International Social Justice Commission tells you all you need to know. Wokey wokey. I walked past a Salvation Army person in their money bucket yesterday. They started talking and I said nope and kept walking. I would love to see everyone else do the same. The Salvation Army just lost my donations. Never gonna happen. No more donations from me. Nope, not gonna apologize. Sorry, not sorry. I'm happy to give to St. Jude's. This is what can now be seen on the Salvation Army's website in response to all of the backlash that they brought upon themselves. More resources. Let's talk about racism. Elements of the recently issued Let's Talk About Racism guide led some to believe we think they should apologize for the color of their skin, or that the Salvation Army may have abandoned its biblical beliefs for another philosophy or ideology. That was never our intention, so the guide has been removed for appropriate review. And here's their current international positional statement of position. They say racism is the belief that races have distinctive cultural characteristics determined by hereditary factors, and that this endows some races with an intrinsic superiority over others. And they are still saying that the use of the term race itself is contested, which is just strange to me. At the end, though, it is good that they say the Salvation Army firmly believes that racism is contrary to God's intention for humankind, and yet we recognize that the tendency for racism is present in all people and all societies. At least they are saying that. According to Newsweek, Christian apologist and radio talk show host Greg Koukl said in a Facebook post, "In my estimation, CRT is a Trojan horse taking in well-intentioned Christian enterprises that, because they care about justice and oppose oppression, naively promote the most serious threat to biblical Christianity I have seen in 50 years. He is the founder and president of the Stand to Reason nonprofit religious organization that trains Christians to think more clearly about their faith and to make an even-handed defense for classical Christianity. There is a massive number of academics, black and white, Christian and non-Christian, atheist and theist, who have raised the alarm against the aggressive indoctrination and, frankly, bullying of CRT, not to mention the racial essentialism inherent in the view, the false witness it bears against virtuous people, and the general destruction it continues to wreak on race relations in this country. CRT has set us back 50 years, he continued. Active officers in the Salvation Army's Western Territory were trained in matters of racial equity in a compulsory manner in January. Let's Talk About Racism accuses white Salvationists of being unable or unwilling to acknowledge their racism. Unfortunately, Goodwill Industries is purportedly also pressuring its stores to adopt critical race theory style training as part of the organization's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion initiative. According to former Goodwill of Southwestern Pennsylvania retail operations manager Timothy O'Malley, his region first began discussions on how the company was going to be different following the 2020 presidential election. O'Malley says that Goodwill of SWPA began holding implicit bias training for store managers in early 2021, which included a required 3 to 4 hour session led by a racial equity trainer in February. Interestingly, according to the Kirwan Institute for the Study of Race and Ethnicity, much of this CRT research has been called deeply into question and is held with rather profound suspicion. And they also mentioned that the media and news programming are often cited origins of implicit associations. Case in point in a couple examples.
There was a black guy with dreadlocks by himself. I don't know if you want to use that.
Okay, well, listen, Rick.
And I'm not, listen, hey, I'm a black guy. So I'm not, saying that because I'm, a white guy out in Waukesha. I'm saying black guys did it.
Okay.
But this is what her daughter said.
Rick, I should inform you right now, you are on live television. So
Oh, really?
everything you say, we are using. So we want to be careful.
Well, I'm telling you, okay.
And
I got you.
we are going to, listen, you are an eyewitness account and we're taking you at your word. We are going to work to confirm these details later.
Okay.
But to sum up, you were at
One thing I do worry about, actually two things, Stephanie, is one is the idea of contagion. Whether it has anything to do with this accident last night and the killing of these people,
And our friend O'Malley from the Goodwill suggested Thomas Sowell as an author to have some diversity of thought, and they told him that that's not really what the DEI committee was about. He also said that he's proposed, so what you're basically telling me is a white person and a black person can do the same thing, but a black person might be able to stay and a white person would get fired. Regional Director of Goodwill SWPA in North Central West Virginia, Jessica McConnell, told him that's the point. Doesn't sound very equitable at all, if you ask me. Due to his pushback against the regime, O'Malley was ultimately fired. And so the reason why I find it important to talk about this push to try to brainwash people with CRT and why I'm tying the Waukesha killer with into it, and something else that you're about to see that is related. The reason I think it's important to talk about is because I think these things are kind of tied together. Obviously, the media tends to downplay, when white people are killed by black people, but when it's the other way around, they just drum it up as much as possible, and they, say everything bad that they can think to say about the white people without trying to prove it, and do the opposite for the black people. So, I think it just kind of enables people of color who are going to commit crime to do it. Or, Antifa members or whoever who are all for BLM to be emboldened to commit their crimes as well, because the media is on their side and the police seem more so to be on their side these days too, at least DAs. So that's why I find it important to talk about. And here are a couple clips from Elijah Schaefer that expand on this. Check it out.
So speaking, I know we were talking a lot about, there's been a lot of talk about black supremacy recently. I don't know, the Waukesha attack. Do you think that was a black supremacist attack?
It seems like, they're claiming no motive. You see car accident is like how it's described in the media, but it seems to me like there was a motive. He looks like he was driving into people.
Yeah, he also has a history of vitriol towards white people. A lot of black people really don't like white people. Like, there's been a lot of these Twitter spaces where people are they're titling them like, "Why do white people exist?" The real talk. And if you see the people that are in the Twitter space, it's mostly the POCs, the Latinx, and the blacks, and they're in there.
I was in a few of those spaces as well.
What happened? What were they talking about?
Oh man, they had a hashtag like Mayo Monkeys, or whatever. There was a lot of talks about white genocide.
Black people are always wilding. They really are on the internet, and they get no consequences. They pay no consequences. Like, I watch this all the time. They're always wilding against white people. Like, not the spaces is the new thing, but there's so many hashtags. If you go to black Twitter, it is the most anti-white. Like, it's not just pro-black. It is like an anti-white venting algorithm of just complaining about white people.
There is anti-white hatred. Like, listen to this. Let's play video one.
First of all, Libs TikTok, let me tell you something. If you're in here, or y'all go run back and tell them, y'all ain't got to tell them that nobody else said shit but me. I'm going to say, listen, you ain't got to chop shit up. I am for the white genocide. I am for the total erasure of the white race. You don't have to chop this up. Yes, I am for all of you white bitches dying like flies. I am for it. I am for it. I support it. I am for putting all you white possums in a gas chamber and letting that motherfucker ring, bitch. I am for it. So you don't have to chop shit up. I'm for it, and I'm going to stand 10 toes down behind it, bitch. Simple as that. So you ain't got to chop shit up. You ain't got to screw the shit. Bitch, I said it, and I stand on it.
I mean, and like I said, this is what they're saying on Twitter, and they don't get shut down. They don't get any consequence.
Thank you again so much for being here today. Since you liked the video enough to make it all the way to the end, don't forget to click the thumbs up and share with somebody else who would also be interested. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Have a wonderful night, afternoon, morning, evening, whatever time zone you are in. Make sure you're subscribed, and I will see you next time.